What are the principles, strategies, and tools that we can learn from the world of evidence about how to genuinely answer the question of how do I build a life that I love? How do I know what to do with my life? And let's take like a product designer kind of design thinking approach to this and actually figure it out. So I have got 3 steps for you. Step 1, step 2, and step 3. Step 1, we're going to call identify, or we can also call that kind of get clarity. And then we will talk about step 2 in just a moment. Step 1 is to basically identify. How do we identify? Basically, what we need to do there is figure out like what is actually the problem. On a scale of 0 to 10, to what extent are you living a life that you love? If you're anything other than a 10, but also if you're a 10 out of 10, it's worth figuring out like what actually is the problem. Like in what areas of life do you actually want to be doing something? Like what is this gap between where you want to be and where you currently are? And what does that look like in different areas of life? So let's think about this. How do we split up life into a thing that makes sense? For me, there's like sort of I sort of think of it in three parts, sometimes 4, sometimes like, I'm just gonna give you my, like the framework I use, and you can kind of pick and choose whatever works for you here. But essentially, like what are the aspects of life that we care about? So the first one is health. The second one is like work / money / career, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, let's call it work / wealth. That whole bucket of thing. The third one is relationships / love / friends / family, like all that kind of stuff. That's like one big bucket. You know what? Let's just focus on these 3. Like there are other things that you can do. Like there are some people that would put play in here, or like purpose / mission, or like spirituality, or like learning. Like there's dozens and dozens of ways of splitting up what like a good life is. But just for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to split it up into health, work, and relationships. Nice and easy. Very few people would disagree with the idea that health, work, and relationships are like the 3 of the main key areas of life. And if you can live a life that you love in terms of health, physical health, mental health and stuff, work and relationships, then you're winning. Essentially, all we want to do when it comes to building a life that we love is we just want to start taking steps in the right direction across each of these 3 realms, health, work, and relationships. So a question you want to ask yourself is, when it comes to my physical and mental health, what is one step that I can take to get closer to where I want to be, or to get closer to building a life that I love when it comes to my physical health? For me, I know when it comes to my physical health, I want to eat more, I want to take my diet more seriously, and I want to take exercise more seriously. And I've got a goal that I kind of want to be a Gymshark athlete, and I kind of want a body like Sam Calder. Like that's like, to me, a cool goal to aim towards. So it's like, cool, now I have identified what I think a life that I love would be in terms of health. That's not to say I'm not currently living a life I love, but it's like, oh cool, it would be cool to go on that journey to get to that point, and I've identified what the goal is. Similarly, when it comes to work, like how do I ideally want to be spending my time? What are the things I actually want to be doing? And in particular, like, is the way that I'm currently spending my time, does that energize me? And I often think about this. It's like, if I look at my calendar, if I look at the things that I actually do with my time, how many of those energize me and how many of those drain me? And another question I think about, I'm just gonna give you all the different frameworks that I use for this, is it's what I call the fast forward test. Where are we? So it's like the fast forward test. The fast forward test is basically, let's take a standard day in your life, and let's say, you know, with each thing that you do, you have the option to fast forward to the end of the thing. Do you press the button, like where you don't experience the thing that you're doing and you just fast forward to the end and get the result at the end? Like for example, let's say you have a day job. Do you choose to fast forward meetings and just so you can get to the end of them? If you could fast forward to the end of your workday, would you choose to fast forward to the end of your workday? Now, back when I was working as a doctor, I actually would. If you'd offered me a fast forward button, I would have pressed it, because even though it was kind of fun, there were still better things I would have wanted to be doing. And if I'd been given a fast forward button, I would have pressed that button almost every workday. I wouldn't have pressed that button if I was teaching medical students, because I genuinely enjoyed teaching medical students and I got a lot of energy out of it. I wouldn't press the fast forward button doing this live stream right now because it's quite fun and I feel like I get energy from it. And so I find that fast forward test is a way of figuring out, like, am I actually living a life I love? Because to me, like, my definition of a life that I love is one where I wouldn't fast forward very many things in my life, because I'd actually want to experience the things that I'm doing. And then finally, when it comes to relationships, we talked about health, work, and relationships. Basically, what we're trying to do is just figure out, like, where do we want to be and where are we currently at? and just generate some ideas. It's all about generating ideas. And again, coming back to this idea that we talked about at the beginning, this sort of design thinking thing. Like, let's say you want to create something like an iPhone. The way the iPhone is created, it's not like someone has an idea for like the iPhone is going to happen and then they invent the iPhone. It's like they figure out what is the problem, they identify, they get clarity on what's wrong with what's on the market right now, and then they throw a lot of ideas. It's like throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And using that spaghetti and those ideas throwing and like taking steps in different directions and getting data over time. So this whole thing of building a life that you love, like the mistake I find that people make with this is that it's too easy to think of it as being a one and done thing, but actually it's a very long process. Over the course of our entire life, we're constantly striving to build a life that we love while enjoying the journey along the way. So design thinking, identify, get clarity on what this actually looks like. One way of doing that, so we talked about the fast forward test. That's one way of doing that. The other way of doing that is something called the Odyssey Plan. Now, I first came across this in 2019, and it's sick. This exercise has changed the life of me and so many other people that I know. The Odyssey Plan is an exercise that's from Designing Your Life, the Stanford Business School thing about how to design a life that you love. And it's basically the idea that you ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, you ask yourself, 5 years from now, what does my current life look like? Like if I were to fast forward 5 years, what would a day in my life look like? Then number 2, you're like, all right, cool, scrap that. If I were to take a completely different path, 5 years from now, what does my life look like? Cool. Now you scrap that, and then you think, okay, number 3, 5 years from now, what does my life look like? If I take a different path, but where I don't have to worry about money, and I don't have to worry about what other people expect of me, or societal expectations, or societal obligations, or if I won the lottery. Like, and what you essentially do is that with the Odyssey Plan, you map out what are those 3 paths. Now, the point of this is not to commit to any one of those paths, but it's just to systematically try and answer the question, what does it mean to me to build a life that I love? And back in 2019, I was still working full-time as a doctor, and my whole life plan was that I was going to do training in anesthetics. I was going to become a physiology supervisor in Cambridge. I was going to become a fellow of Emmanuel College, which is the college I went to. And I was going to do 4 days a week training in anesthetics and become an anesthetist or anesthesiologist if you're in the US. That was my whole plan. And I kind of wrote out in pretty reasonable detail what that looks like 5 years from now. And then I asked myself, I looked at that, I was like, this is just not very exciting. The thought of this being my life 5 years from now does not actually energize me. It does not excite me. And that was a massive thing for me of like, oh crap, like this path that I've been going on is not actually a path that I want to be on. And so that resulted in me basically kind of re-evaluating my life and changing up where I ended up. And that's how I actually ended up here today, speaking to you on this live stream, because I decided that actually this YouTube stuff and the teaching stuff and the writing stuff and writing a book and all of that seemed to me at the time to be more exciting and more energizing. And this is a thing that I did about 3 years ago. And I think doing it every few years or even every year, depending on how quickly your life is changing, is like helpful because it just generates some ideas. And really, it just comes down to this thing of like, how do you identify what living a life you love means for you? A big part of it is to generate ideas of what it could look like, because you're never going to know unless you try things out. You can kind of analysis paralysis yourself with this all you like, but until you actually try things out, you're never going to know what a life that you love actually means. And for me, I recognized when I was in medical school that if I become a full-time doctor, that to me is not really a life that I love. Cool, what are some other things I can do? How can I dip my toes into a bunch of different things? How can I tried starting a medtech app. I joined loads of societies. I tried starting a business. And the business stuff was fun, the medtech stuff was fun, the teaching stuff was really fun. So I was like, cool, I'm enjoying this thing. I'm taking steps towards this thing. Still not fully enjoying medicine itself, but I really enjoy teaching medical students. Maybe I could take some steps down the teaching route. And I took some steps down that path and some more down the entrepreneurship path. And eventually landed on this YouTube channel where I was like, oh, hello, there's something here. Let's take some more steps. And it's a constant stage of just putting building blocks down over time and eventually building to a point where I can comfortably say that I'm a 10 out of 10 on the I currently live a life that I love scale, but I'm still over time trying to kind of increase that as well and I won't say increase that. I guess I'm still over time trying to continuously put down blocks, which is why I have goals in the realm of health and relationships and work and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, all that to say that is, I'm being quite rambly here. Step 1 of this method. How to build a life that you love. Step 1 is you identify some options, ideas and options. What are some things you could try? It's all about trying to find things that we can try. And then step 2 is experiment. And I love the word experiment. I love the word experiment because it's kind of sciencey and it makes me think of myself as a bit of a science bro. But I also love the word experiment because it takes the pressure off. Back when I started my YouTube channel, it was not a case of, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel, it's gonna be successful and I know what I'm doing. It was a case of, I have an idea, identify, that hey, maybe I can put a building block down towards building a life I love by starting a YouTube channel. Cool, now let's turn this into an experiment. Let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. I made a video on my bed being like, hey, I'm just gonna start a vlog. So for the past few days, I've kind of had the idea that it would be really cool to start vlogging. And I was like, cool, let's just put it up there. Edit it in Premiere, watched a few tutorials. I was like, cool, I'm gonna just put some stuff out there. I'm gonna throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make some BMAT tutorial videos because I had a business helping people get into med school. Why don't I make some videos teaching people how to get into med school? And then people started asking me, do some vlogs of life as a medical student. I was like, cool, I'll do some vlogs about life as a medical student, see what happens. Then people started asking me, hey, how do you study for exams? You seem intelligent, like teach us how to study. I was like, all right, cool, I'll do that. And at every step, I didn't have a plan, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was just taking some small steps along the path, putting the blocks down towards just exploring this avenue. And there are loads of people I know who start a YouTube channel for whom they realize 6 months in, you know what, this isn't for me. I've tried the experiment, I don't enjoy it, I don't want to do this thing. But for me, I tried the experiment and it went well. I was like, all right, cool, this is actually kind of fun. It's energizing, it's exciting, this is good. I like the idea of being a YouTuber. Let's continue down this path. And so that's where this idea of experimenting comes in. And you know, there's another way of thinking of it is, you know, prototypes. Like if we go back to our sort of design thinking example, let's say you're trying to design the iPhone from scratch and people have no idea what's going on. They worked with like hundreds, thousands of different prototypes. That what would it look like if the touchscreen was like this? What would it look like if, I don't know, the button was in the middle or on the top or on the side, or if we had a back button? They tried out so many of these things and they were just trying out experiments to see what works. And they were getting data from those experiments in their internal testing to see, is this actually the thing that we want to make? It's just all about experimentation. You get an idea and then you try it out. And the mistake that people make, like, you know, this is a massive, massive issue that I see, is that over here, they kind of don't do anything. They have an idea, it's like, oh, I reckon it would be cool to start a podcast or to start a YouTube channel, and they don't take action. They let the fear of getting started stop them from just even experimenting. But the point is, it's all about having this sort of experimental and prototypey attitude to, I guess, life. And really the way I think of it is, what is the smallest step that I can take? It's all about the smallest step. This is another area where I see a lot of, at least in the context of YouTube, in the context of my part-time YouTuber Academy, people make mistakes where it's like, oh, I don't know if I should completely change my niche. It's like, I don't want to do makeup content anymore. Let's see, I don't want to do productivity content anymore. I want to do finance content now. And they start thinking like, oh my God, my whole channel is going to become a finance channel. How do I do this? What's the plan? And I'm like, no. Okay, your idea is maybe you like the idea of making finance content. What is the smallest step you can take? Can you put out a community post being like, hey, thinking of making a finance video, what do you guys think? Can you just put out a single video? Can you do a live stream where you talk about finance? Like, what is the smallest step you can take to experiment with this idea and see if you actually enjoy the thing? And then we come to the tip number 3, or kind of step number 3, which is to iterate. And this is another thing that they do in startups, in product design, in anything like that. You have an idea, you make the thing, you prototype, you do an experiment, and then you iterate. You see how it felt to do the thing, and then you improve based on that thing that you've done. And it always becomes this like sort of constant experimentation feedback loop where you identify, you experiment, and then you iterate, and then you go back to identifying. So again, like to use an example, like I know I identified I want to have a body like Sam Calder for whatever that's worth. And so now I'm experimenting. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna hire a personal trainer, I'm gonna try going to the gym. Personal trainer A, didn't quite enjoy the sessions, too many high reps, the volume was too high. Cool, let's try another method. And so I downloaded Jeff Nippard's guide to the minimalist workout routine the other day. And I found another personal trainer and I'm gonna say to him, look man, I don't like doing like 20 reps of stuff. I just wanna do the sort of 5 to 8 rep range. Can we try that? Because I wanna get a body like Sam Calder. So like, these are trivial examples, but it's the idea of step 1, identify an area in which you could try an experiment. Step 2, run that experiment. And step 3, use the data to then feed back into identifying what you want to do next. And as long as you're continuing to take small steps, then eventually you would answer yes to the question of, am I building a life that I love? Because you're taking small intentional steps in each of these different areas to build towards a life that you think you want, but you won't actually know you want it until you get there, and then you're trying experiments and iterating, and it becomes like a really fun loop where every day you're taking some actions But really the key thing here is that it is all about that sort of action taking. It's all well and good analyzing the hell out of things and stuff, but really, unless it comes on a foundation of action and a foundation of actually doing stuff, taking the steps, there's no use reading about how to get six-pack abs. What actually gets you six-pack abs or gets you in shape is doing the exercises. It's not reading about doing the exercises. And it's so easy for nerds like you and me, if you're watching this live stream, you're probably a nerd to an extent. I'm definitely a nerd. It's so easy for nerds like us to overanalyze the hell out of things and just not take any action, not take any steps, thinking, again, mistake that loads of people make on my part-time YouTuber Academy. It's like a 5-week live course. And what they say is, you know what? I'm gonna watch all 60 hours of content first. And once I've watched all the content, then I will start my YouTube channel. And I always say, no, don't do that. That is like the worst thing you can do. The thing you should do is start your YouTube channel right now, upload a crappy video with your phone right now, and then watch the live sessions and then do the homework each week. And as long as you're taking action, then it's okay to analyze. But it's not okay to analyze if you're not taking action. And that's what this whole idea of designing your life is kind of based around. Identify, experiment, take action. Have a good time. Now, if you're interested in taking this idea of building a life that you love seriously, you might like to check out some of my other exclusive content that I've got available on Nebula. If you haven't heard, Nebula is an independent streaming platform that's built by me and a bunch of other creators. And on Nebula, we get to put long form exclusive stuff that we wouldn't necessarily put on YouTube because we'd be worried about the YouTube algorithm. And so on Nebula, I've got a series of videos where I've done live stream interviews with thinkers from all around the world whose work I've admired for years. There's an interview with Ryan Holiday, who's written a lot about Stoicism and that school of philosophy. We've got an interview with Justin Kan, who was the co-founder of Twitch, which he then sold to Amazon for $1 billion, and how kind of he's trying to build a life that he loves after that major success. We've got an interview with Derek Sivers, who's one of the people on the internet who I've admired for a long time, and a bunch of other people who I managed to interview during the pandemic to ask basically this question of how do you actually build a life that you love? If you want to get access to Nebula, the best way is to sign up to CuriosityStream, who are very kindly sponsoring this video. CuriosityStream is the world's leading documentary streaming subscription platform that's founded by John Hendricks, who's the founder of the Discovery Channel. On CuriosityStream, they've got thousands of really high budget, high quality documentaries from all sorts of topics like science and technology, to history, to politics, to food, to neuroscience and how the brain works. And because CuriosityStream love independent creators, we've actually got a bundle deal with Nebula. So if you sign up for CuriosityStream, which is less than $15 for the whole year, you also get completely free access to Nebula bundled with that. And so on top of getting access to all of these high quality documentaries, you also get access to the exclusive content posted by me and other creators that you might be familiar with, like Thomas Frank and Legal Eagle and Lindsay Ellis and Wendover Productions. If that sounds up your street and you want to sign up to the best deal in the streaming world right now, then head over to curiositystream.com/Ali. And if you sign up there, then your Nebula details will be emailed to you and you can check out the exclusive stuff I have on Nebula to your heart's content. So thank you so much, CuriosityStream, for sponsoring this video. So we've got the three-part method. I just want to share a few tips that I found really useful. Just like a handful of things to help me personally build a life that I love. Tip number 1 is the team of builders. Basically, you want to have people around you who are also trying to build a life that they love, and you want to support each other along in the process. It's kind of lonely being on the personal development journey if you're just doing it by yourself, but if you have other people around you who are motivating you and who are also trying to do the thing, then it's great. Again, just using our part-time YouTuber Academy as an example, because I think it is just a microcosm of a lot of different things that people are trying to do. People are trying to be YouTubers, they're trying to get over their fear, they're trying to make money, all of these things. But to use that as an example, the people that stick to YouTube consistently tend to be the ones who form accountability groups. And essentially what an accountability group is you get a couple of people together, usually 2 or 3, and you decide every week we're gonna have a Zoom call where we hold each other accountable to the things that we're gonna do. People in my team do this. Tintin, Alice, Angus, and Bav have a little accountability group that meets every Monday at 5 p.m. In fact, they did it a few days ago. They meet every Monday at 5 p.m. and each of them has the floor for 5 minutes and they say, okay, here's what I'm working on this week. And then they check in the following week to be did I actually do the thing? And this is the idea of having a team of builders around you. You probably have some friends in your life, some colleagues, some family members, even people on the internet you can find. A lot of these accountability groups are online, where you can find people who are also trying to do the same thing. And it's so much easier to work towards building a life that you love if you can find a team of builders to do it with you. Even just a friend, even just 2 friends. I think 3 is an ideal size of a WhatsApp group. You can do that, find a team of builders around you. Tip number 2 is something I've started doing recently that I've got a lot of mileage out, is essentially a method called the 3 alarms. What are the 3 alarms? Well, the philosophy behind this method, the 3 alarm method, is the idea that actions tend to follow from identity. So it's if I think of myself as someone who is a healthy person, someone who is a Gymshark athlete, I am more likely to make healthy life choices when it comes to eating well and when it comes to exercising. If I think of myself as someone who cares a lot about relationships, I'm then more likely to take the actions that mean I care a lot about relationships. It tends not to be action first. It's not like I'll go to the gym X amount of times and then I'll start to think of myself as a healthy person. It's more like when I start thinking of myself as a healthy person, I then start to go to the gym more often. And the 3 alarms method is a method that my coach Eric Partaker came up with, and he's got a book about this called The 3 Alarms. I will literally show you what is currently on my phone. It's a bit cringe, but that's okay. I'm getting over the fear of being cringy over here. This is it. Let me show you my phone. This is like no word of a lie. This is what's on my phone right now. I basically have 3 alarms on my phone. The first alarm says, humble and inspiring teacher. Lol, cringe. The second alarm says Gymshark athlete, and the third alarm says relationship sustainer. So basically every day at 9 a.m. this alarm goes off and it just goes blum 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 blum, and it says humble and inspiring teacher, because that is the identity that I want to embody in my work. Yeah, I mean, I cringe a bit as I say this. I hope you'll forgive me. But just that reminder that comes up on my Apple Watch, lol, product placement, and on my phone is enough to remind me that, yeah, those are the things I want to approach my life with. Then at 5 p.m., which is, as you can see, 16 minutes from now, because it's 16:44, this alarm is going to go off and it's going to say Gymshark athlete, because that's the identity I want to embody. And that means I've decided I'm going to go to the gym. And it's just a reminder, oh yeah, I'm now in Gymshark athlete mode. I should go to the gym. And then at 6:30, relationship sustainer. Again, sounds a bit cringe, but like that's the alarm that's going to go off at 6:30. And I've got some friends coming over for dinner at 6:30, because I decided I want to be the sort of person that sustains relationships and builds new ones, and therefore that's the alarm. And it's just nice. It's nice to have. I've been doing this. I've had these alarms on my phone for the last several weeks, and I have genuinely found it helpful. And you don't have to pay anything for it. It's free. You can just decide in the realm of work, health, and relationships, i.e. the 3 big realms of life, what's the identity you want to embody, and then just make an alarm on your phone that encourages you to actually do the thing. The final tip for building a life you love is also from the book 3 Alarm, and that's, I mean, he calls it like champion proofs or something like that. And basically the idea there is every day you want to prove to yourself that in the 3 realms of life that you care about, in my case, you know, health, work, and relationships, in those 3 realms of life, you want to prove to yourself that like you are taking a small action to build a life that you love every day. And so you can plan that at the start of your day. Each morning I look at my bullet journal when I'm doing my planning, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, these are the 3 identities I want to have. Humble and inspiring teacher, lol, Gymshark athlete, and relationship sustainer. What is an action I'm going to take across each of those? And it might be something small. In the realm of health, it's today I'm going to go to the gym, or today I'm going to go for a walk, or today I'm going to go for a run. And that reminds me that I am kind of embodying my identity of being a Gymshark athlete. In the realm of work, humble and inspiring teacher, I might think, you know what, like earlier today, I decided I was going to do this live stream because I want to experiment with the idea of trying to come across as a humble and inspiring teacher, lol, cringe, on something like a live stream, which might be kind of fun and it might be kind of cool, and I get to interact with the chat and it's been super fun, so that's sick. And then in the relationships front, what am I doing today? Well, I need to call my grandma. That's something I still have to do. She's in Pakistan right now. But I've also got this dinner with my guy friends who I haven't seen in a while. So I arranged the dinner a couple weeks ago when I decided I wanted to be a relationship sustainer. So that method of like, just a few tips that I found super, super helpful in the last few weeks that I genuinely use every day. Thinking about having a team of builders, setting these 3 alarms on my phone, and kind of sort of reminding myself, what are these championship proofs? Or how will I prove to myself that I actually am putting down building blocks to build a life that I love? That's what I find helpful. Hopefully you find it helpful as well. So that brings us to the end of this somewhat experimental video about how to kind of build a life that you love. If you enjoyed this, you might like to check out that video over there, which is my video around how I manage my time and my favorite productivity tips for squeezing most out of my time while having fun and while not burning out. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.